Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. When we started our membership site at 5000 BC, all of the members were men. How did that change? How did we get women as well as men in the membership site? Today's episode is a QT, as in quick tip. 3 quick tips on testimonials that you can implement right away. Let's start out with the first quick tip, which is that specifics make a difference. When we go back to 2003, all of the members were men. Well, there might have been 1 or 2 women, but mostly they were men. And the reason was that a lot of men were online compared with women at that point in time. When you're faced with that kind of reality, which is that in that room, in that group, online, there are more men than women, and you want to get more women into that thing. So you create a balance because there is an imbalance. What do? What we started to do was to use the concept of specifics. When we look at a testimonial, we look at it as say something nice about this company, say something nice about this product or service. But a testimonial is really a mirror. When someone looks at that testimonial, it's like they're looking in a mirror. When they see other women, then they decide it's probably safe for them to join that group as well, because there are other women. If you belong to a certain part of the world and then you see almost all the testimonials are from people that don't belong to your region or your country, there is a bit of uncertainty that crops up. And the way to solve this problem is to put in specifics. One of the specifics that work really well are photographs. You've got lots of women in the group, you want some men to join. Well, put some photographs of men and women. Some people would like only women to be part of the group, or only men, in which case, again, the photographs become the mirror. Clients look at it and, without thinking about it, decide to join or not to join, because they feel safe or unsafe, just based on the photographs. Other specifics could be profession or a location. And so, if we just take photographs, location, and profession, what we have is a very clear identification of, am I part of this group or do I want to be part of this group? And you don't have to start with all 3. You can just start with photographs, changing the photographs around, or you can start with location. Say you want to have everyone from Australia, for instance. Well, then put in Australia, as in get clients from Australia, get their testimonials, and then put in Australia. And then, surprise, surprise, you'll have Australians in your group. So think of it as a mirror. How are you going to get people to join your group, your membership site, or whatever it is that you're doing? We had that same problem. We were doing lots of workshops in the US. And so we started getting a lot of testimonials from people in the US. And then we wanted to do more workshops across the world, maybe in Europe, maybe in Singapore. How do we do that? We have to get that workshop going, obviously. But then on the workshop page, we have to put in more specifics of people from Belgium and the Netherlands and other countries. And as a result, we can now have workshops in Singapore because Singaporeans look at it. We have it in Europe and because Europeans look at it. And you know where I'm going with this. And that's the whole point, that the specifics act as a mirror. So work on the photos, work on the titles, work on the location, because that you can do today. Even with the few testimonials that you have, put those specifics in. That's the first tip. Let's take the second one, which is how to get much longer and more detailed testimonials. And you'll be surprised by how you go about doing this. When we started out, we were getting 2-line testimonials, just like most people do. 2 lines, 3 lines, 5 lines. They're pretty useless because, yeah, you can put them as little snippets on the website. It's fine, but it doesn't give you an experience. And if you go into a prospectus, so if you go into the article writing page or the cartooning page, you will see these massive testimonials. They are 1,000 words or 1,500 words, and you go, how do you get testimonials like that? Because they're not even testimonials, they're experiences. They're how the client went through this entire experience of joining the cartooning course, thinking I can't draw a straight line, and then the whole experience comes through. And when you're reading it as a client, you feel that experience. You don't feel, hey, this is just someone sugarcoating this course or this product. You understand what they went through and how it applies to you. And to get that kind of testimonial, you have to ask a whole bunch of questions. Now, if you read the brain audit, you have like 6 questions that you can ask. And then if you have a more detailed course, there are 17 questions. You can email me if you want those questions. But the point is, that's not the key. Those questions are crucial, but what's the key is the example. You have to get at least 1 or 2 clients to give you those experiences. And when you send it out to the client, say you've got a new client, you want to get a testimonial from that client, you have to send out the example. Because that client will look at the questions, they will look at the example, and they will give you a testimonial somewhat based on that example. So if your example has 1,000 words, guess what? You're not going to get a testimonial that's 6 lines. You may not get 1,000 words. You may get 1,500 words. You may get 2,000 words. You may get 600 words, but you're not going to get 5 words or 7 words. It's the example that makes a difference. The questions, they're very crucial because they help put that structure together so that the client doesn't have to think up, what am I going to say? What am I going to say in this testimonial? But the example, that becomes very crucial. Not sending out that example means that they don't have anything, they don't have any framework, and so they do whatever they want, and then you get these slightly depressing testimonials. Is it hard to get that first long one? Of course it is. That's what you're supposed to do. That's why you became an entrepreneur. Sometimes you have to do the hard stuff, but you get the testimonials. A client is really happy with you. You can ask them for this very long testimonial and they'll do it. And that takes us to the third part, which is, how do I get this long testimonial in the first place? Because we have the choice between the written testimonial and the spoken one. Which one should we choose? This takes us to the third tip, which is, how do you get that long testimonial in the first place? If you've been part of a psychotactics course, maybe article writing or headlines or cartooning, what you'll find is that on the last week of the course, like the course ends, and then the week after that, we expect you to give testimonials and feedback. And what we do is we don't do any interviews. We don't ask you to get on a phone or a webinar and give a testimonial. Instead, what we have are a whole bunch of questions, like I said, 17 questions, and people fill that up. And now we have a 1,500 word testimonial. And a written testimonial is extremely powerful because people have time to think. They have time to go over the questions and analyze what's being asked and then come back with a very thoughtful answer. And you're thinking, well, I should go after the written testimonial. And then you send it out to a client and you know what happens next. You don't hear from them, you try to remind them, and then you remind them again and you remind them again, and guess what? You end up with this testimonial that they just have to get across to you. And it's not a very good testimonial. And there's a reason for that. That's clients don't write testimonials every day, and they don't know how to structure the testimonials. And what they need is a little help from you, which is why you need to go after the spoken testimonial. Say a client has just done a job with you or just some training. Go after those 6 questions in the brain audit Ask them those questions. Ask for maybe 10 minutes of their time. Most clients will be more than happy to give you 10 minutes of their time. Then you ask them question after question. But remember, the client still has to think. They don't know the questions in advance, and you don't necessarily need them to know the questions in advance. And when you're silent after each question, you have this uncomfortable level of silence. And that causes the client to think. Some people are very effusive, very quick with answering the questions, and some people need to think. And if you're silent and you're not rushing through that, they will think and they will give you their answers. However, the last question, that is the most crucial of all. And the last question in those 6 is, what else would you like to add? At that point in time, you have to go really silent, almost uncomfortable silence. Often I've got the client to give me a whole new testimonial with details and specifics right at the end, because they've gone through this warm-up process. They've answered all those questions. And it's not sneaky. It's just that they've had time to think about it, even as they're answering the question. And then when you say, what else do you have to add? And you go very quiet and there's this uncomfortable silence. That's when they think of the whole thing. They've kind of warmed up and they get you. And that's kind of the most important part of it, which is silent. Be silent. Don't rush through that last question. Every question that you ask, any of those 6 questions, need to have that level of silence. But this one, the last one, you have to be the most silent of all. Let it be uncomfortable. And that's when you get a really good answer and experience. Now, you take this testimonial and you go to a website like temi.com, that's TEMI.com. You're not going to get a great transcription. It's automatically generated, but it's cheap enough and you can go over it and you can tidy it up if you like. Or you can go to a more expensive transcription service, and rev.com will do that for you. So you don't have to sit there and go tap, 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 tap on your keyboard. There are transcription services like rev.com or temi.com, depending on your budget. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. We covered 3 tips. What were they? The first thing is the specifics. The second was sending an example along with the testimonial so that the client can see what is expected of them. And finally, all of the questions that you ask, they need to have a bit of silence. But the last question, which is, what else would you like to add? That needs a very uncomfortable silence. And if you do these 3 quick things, you've got one great testimonial, which then gets a second one and third one. And now on Psychotactics, we've got hundreds of testimonials. Actually, thousands. Just the brain audit alone has over 1,000 testimonials. So it starts off with one testimonial, doing it right. But what's the one thing that you can do? Well, the one thing that you can do today is specifics. No matter what kind of testimonial you have, long or short, you can get specifics and you can look for those specifics and you can put those specifics on the testimonials that you currently have, or the very first testimonial that you get today or tomorrow or the day after. Put the specifics, whether it's location or title or the photograph, whether it's a man or a woman. And accordingly, you'll see that it works like a mirror. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. Let's find out what's happening in Psychotactics land. You might have already heard it, but we have this series called The Psychology of Starting Up. Now, this is a product that people have asked me to create for the past 10 years. And I'm glad that I procrastinated, because it's not just, which button should I press? Or how should I just immediately start up? Because it's a mental game. We all feel like we're not ready. We all feel this imposter syndrome. We all feel like everything that needs to be done has already been done, and it's not true. And this series goes through the steps that you need to get your mindset in place, because that is the crux. You already have some level of skill. It's not like you're just going into it like, let's do this. No, You have some level of skill, but it's the mindset that's going to hold you back every single time. And the psychology of starting up that 6-part series will help you tremendously. So have a look at it. The second thing is that on the 2nd of August, you've got the Info Products course. And I'm actually losing my voice here, so bear with me. But if you go to psychotactics.com/info-goodies, you'll see some of the goodies that help you with Info Products. And yeah, that brings us to the end of this podcast, partially because my throat is really hurting. And maybe it's better to just answer a lot of the questions in 5000 BC. So come to 5000 BC and you'll see that it's a place where the slogan is not just a slogan. It's be kind, be helpful, or be gone. And you'll get a lot of these QTs, which are the quick tips, but also very detailed answers to your questions. There are some questions that have been going on for so long that they have over 2,000 views, which means they've been going on for months and months and months with people asking questions and counter questions and counter questions. You get the idea, don't you? And that's the level of help that you get in 5000 BC. So you can decide when you get to 5000 BC. So go there, have a look, and then decide for yourself. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye. Still listening? If you're wondering why I'm losing my voice, it's because I've pulled the throat muscles on the right-hand side of my neck. This is what I do, by the way. I have no idea how I use my neck for anything, which is why I don't go to the gym or do anything of that sort. If I go to the gym, I'll pull throat muscles. If I speak at an event, I'll have tight throat muscles. And for some reason, doing a whole bunch of webinars, those startup webinars last week and the week before that, yeah. And that's why we had to run a whole bunch of reruns just so I could let my throat rest. But apparently it's still going. Hopefully it'll get better. But I'll say bye for now, and I'll see you in 5000 BC. Bye-bye.